I'm Kristen, and this is the Explorer in You podcast. Now, what I've discovered after visiting 5 continents and some amazing places is that the greatest thing standing in your way of seeing the world is what you believe is possible. I believe that travel is for everyone, on any budget, and it doesn't have to be overwhelming. So this podcast is all about unlocking the explorer in you. You'll hear stories from people who will inspire you to set big travel goals and show you how to achieve them. Let's explore. Okay, so I'm one of those weird people who actually like to work out. I like getting my body moving, the endorphin rush, and just feeling strong. When I'm traveling, I'm usually getting a lot more steps in than usual, but I'm not doing a lot of the strength training that I typically do back home. And honestly, I'm not eating as healthy either. So that's why I was excited to talk with Olympic athlete Katie Zafiras about how to stay fit while traveling. Katie competed in the 2016 Olympics in Rio, and she is the 2019 International Triathlon Union World Triathlon Grand Final gold medalist and Triathlon Series overall champion. She spends about 9 months out of the year training in different places around the world. And it was really interesting to hear not only about how to stay fit and healthy while on the road, but also what it's like to explore a place as an Olympic athlete and to hear about some of her favorite places in the world to train. She was supposed to participate in this year's Summer Olympics in Tokyo, and as we know, unfortunately, due to COVID, that was canceled. But we chatted a bit about what that experience has taught her about resilience. We talk about some simple travel gear to bring that will help you stay in shape and where you can work out with Katie every day live. So if you've ever wondered how to incorporate fitness and eat healthy during your travels, I know you'll get a lot out of this episode. Hi, Katie. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I thought we could start with you sharing a little bit about your journey to becoming an Olympic athlete.
Yeah, so for me, I feel like my journey to becoming an Olympic athlete was a bit different because the sport I became an Olympic athlete in is triathlon, and I really didn't even start triathlon until 2012 after I graduated from college. So it was a bit later start for this whatever my sport was for growing up, which was more I was doing soccer, lacrosse, swimming, and then in high school I started running, and ultimately I ended up going to Syracuse University, ran Division I, but I had that background in swimming. So USA Triathlon, they have a program called the Collegiate Recruitment Program, and it basically recruits athletes who run Division I and have a background in swimming, or vice versa, and thinking that they can teach you how to ride a bike. So I was only contacted basically, it was my 4th year of running at Syracuse, and I had one more, I had a 5th year of eligibility. So I started kind of dabbling in triathlon, and I'd done like a triathlon annually with my dad locally where I grew up. Like I did one right after my senior year in high school, but it was nothing that I had thought I would go to the Olympics in or be a professional athlete in. So that was really is because USA Triathlon kind of found me, that helped me to start this journey and become an Olympic athlete, because not ultimately, but when I was in college, I was just planning on going to become a physical education teacher. That's what I was. So that was what I was going to school for. So when right after I graduated, they were kind of getting this program together, and they said, "Hey, do you want to come out to train in Colorado Springs at the Olympic Training Center? We're bringing a few athletes out." And I was so torn because it was like a big step, and it was the unsafe option in the sense that I didn't know what would happen. There was less certainty in going to the Olympic Training Center and trying to become an Olympic athlete in a sport I'd never really done before versus like becoming a professional in physics or as a teacher and doing physical education. But I also know it was an opportunity I couldn't say no to. So that's kind of how I became a triathlete and then led to being in the Olympics.
Do you think that your variety of doing different sports and not necessarily being a triathlete all the way up, do you think that actually benefited you? I read this book called Range, and it talked about how, it's two different philosophies. One is that you focus on like becoming a golfer, like your whole career, and you just master that. But there's the other school of thought where it's the person who, I think Roger Federer was the example, where he had tried all these different sports, and that's actually what helped him become like this, amazing tennis player. So I'm just curious if you feel like those other experiences actually really did inform becoming a triathlete, and if so, how?
Yeah, I firmly believe that having the variety in sport growing up really helped me. Also, triathlon's a bit of a newer sport, so I think it is easier to have a very diverse background in sports and then get into the sport later. But I wouldn't change anything, like even when I think about university and going to college as a runner, like I think that aspect of my life I needed. The time I was running in high school was more, I guess, on the basic level, and I really still needed to grow from that foundation of running, and that's what I found in college. And I became a lot better of a runner in college than I ever was in high school. And if I would have missed that opportunity, then I think my running might have been more stagnant, and like I may not have been able to improve quite as much in that discipline, which then carried over to the sport as a whole in triathlon. So for me, there's been nothing that I've wanted to change about that journey or the fact that I started later, because also I like that at 31 years old, I feel like I'm still continuing to improve and get better and learn, which is fun to be able to do. And I mean, now I still consider myself new at triathlon, but I've been doing it 7 years. So I don't know when that changes, but
Right. Maybe it's a decade. I don't know.
yeah. But it's been I just feel like, well, in general with my life, I just feel like everything happens for a reason. And the pathway to triathlon is exactly the same with that, is that I needed all those things to shape me into the athlete that I am, both in terms of like fitness and strength, but also like resiliency and the mental component and everything.
Right. And then you mentioned that it wasn't the safest path, but it felt like something you would regret not doing. Was there a certain moment that went along with that where you were just like, oh, I'm going to take this path?
There were, I would say, a couple moments. One of them was I was nannying for a family in Syracuse, and I was in church with them when I was thinking about this option. And the priest was doing his homily, and it was, I can't remember like the most specific portions of it, but it was basically like doing things that are scare you might have different benefits, or being like embracing uncertainties. And like I was listening thinking like, he's talking to me. And then like the woman who I babysit for looked at me and it's like, he's talking to you. And so it was like a cool moment. And I think that was like one of those where I just felt like, okay, like this is a sign to go down this path. And so then my dad, like that winter, my dad was driving me out to Colorado Springs. It's like a 24-hour drive from Maryland. And we got about an hour out from the Springs. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I was scared. I was nervous. Like, as amazing as an opportunity as it is, it's also very intimidating. I've always looked at the Olympians at like the highest of standards, and and
Big
so
shoes to fill.
right, exactly. And just like not knowing the community and things like that. But my dad was just like, well, if you like stay for a week, if you don't like it, if you're not enjoying it, then like I'll fly back and then we drive home. And I obviously never called him.
Right.
Well, I did call him, but not to come pick me up. We've talked since. but no, and I think just like it's been a lot of like embracing those uncertainties and the discomfort that something new or unknown is. And that's a lot what you do in life and in sports. So
Right, right.
it's happened a lot since then.
I'm sure. I'm sure. And then, so being an Olympic athlete, it sounds like it takes you all around the world for most of the year to train and stay at your level. So, what do you like most about being able to travel for your job?
Yeah, well, I love the fact that it takes me to places that I wouldn't have had on my list to go to if like a race or training options weren't there. So like one of my favorites is South Africa, specifically like the Stellenbosch and Cape Town area, because well, I love the food, but I also I love the just dramatic landscape with the mountains and Tabletop Mountain and like I think it's this, I might get the number wrong, but like the Seven Apostles uh mountain range. And it's amazing. And I don't think that would have been on the list that I would have had. And like going to the United Arab Emirates and little islands and communities that um I I feel like I'm not sure I would have ever felt like I had a reason to go there, or maybe I would have been like, oh, there's another place to go that's easier to get to, you know?
Right, right.
So that's probably been the best place. And also that with my job, it's swimming, biking, and running. And so whenever I'm training in these places, I'm getting to see parts of it or explore different parts. And that's always really enjoyable too.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds amazing. And then, so you live a pretty nomadic lifestyle. So, what do you feel are the advantages and the disadvantages to that? Or do you just love it?
There are mostly advantages, but there are like a few a few parts that definitely are hard. Um, I feel like the biggest advantage is just getting to, like we just said, like explore and see different places and experience different cultures and um, meet like so many different people and have connections now all around the world and see how other people and places do things. I think that's super interesting. And then I'm really fortunate because my husband does all this traveling with me. So where it would be much harder if we were separated whenever we were traveling, he's with me either training with me, or he also is a sports photographer at the races and does like social media content creation at the races. So being able to do this lifestyle together is awesome, and to experience all these different things together. It does get a bit tiresome to always be living out of a suitcase. And we don't really we have like our licenses say California, but like we don't really have like a home where we stay for like majority of the year. So the most we're ever in one place, well, probably would be COVID. Actually right now we're in my parents' house in Maryland where I grew up, but like typically the longest we are is maybe like 3 months, December to like February.
So, what does a typical day of training look like for you? We could start there, but then I also want to know, so do you train in Australia?
We've trained a good amount of places.
Okay.
A lot of our training, I mean, we've done bits of training in Gold Coast, Noosa, and Brisbane for more extended training camps, but mainly because we follow the races. So there were races that were in that area. And
Got
then
it.
if we don't have a race, like often our training will be in a place we go often is Mallorca, which is a Spanish
Oh,
island.
lovely.
Yeah, it living the hard life here.
Right.
Mallorca is definitely definitely one of my favorites as well. Also Banyoles, Spain, which is a place I could live. That's just like 90 minutes north of Barcelona. Um, and
Is
then
that Basque country?
no, it's actually Catalonia.
Got
So
it. Okay.
um, and then we also train in Les Anglais, France, which is actually where we're supposed to be right now, but our plans kind of changed because of the travel restrictions and all that's going on, but some of our teammates are there training, but that's in the Pyrenees mountains right over the border of Spain, so just barely in France.
Wow. I'm sure it's beautiful there.
Yeah, so our typical like training day is it is so dependent because we have, I would say we have typical weeks, so we have like each day of the week is pretty standard for us, but each day of the week is very different from the other days. So like Monday, like today, is a recovery day, so I just had like a super easy bike ride, an easy swim, and then I'll do like some strength or gym work. The other days are like, we're always doing like 2 to 3 sessions a day,
Okay.
not usually more than that. And then each day typically has like a focus for the training. So like tomorrow for us is like track Tuesday, so we'll do like a speed session, and then Wednesday is kind of like all three, but it's more endurance, more of an endurance day, so it ends up being a longer day, but nothing super hard or intense, not much intensity. And then Thursday Thursday and Sundays are kind of my favorite because I don't have to swim on Thursday and Sunday. So
Okay.
so it ends up being a ride and a run, but it just kind of like every week is pretty similar, and it'll build off the week before if we're in a building phase, but day to day is quite different.
And then, so it sounds like you get some recovery days in between your workout days.
Yeah, so we don't often take a day off. I've taken a few days off just during this phase with the coronavirus and stuff, just because it's been so much of just base training because we haven't been racing. But typically we don't take any days off except for when we have like 2 weeks off between seasons. And instead it'll be like like today, which is just like really chill and relaxed.
Okay. And so when you're in these places, some of them you mentioned that you love, do you feel like you get to connect with the area that you're in and kind of check out the local life, or are you mostly just focused on training?
I would say me and my husband specifically are more like focused on training. I think there's probably more opportunity to like really be more immersed in things, but that's not usually like our style. I guess we're just like way more laid back. But I like seeing things just by like riding my bike and exploring different roads and different areas, or trying to figure out different trails, or when we go to races in particular, because a lot of the places we train are pretty similar, and even with racing we go back to some of the same places year after year. So it's like finding the different spots that could be a little more fun and let us experience the actual place. Because when I went to Rio, I was pretty disappointed with my race, and when I look back at it, I was pretty disappointed with how I kind of handled the whole experience, because our race was the second to last day and of the Olympics, and so I was so focused on the race, and then the race was over, I was disappointed with my result, and and the Olympics was over basically. And even though I got to go to the closing ceremonies and got to do a few cool things, I was like, oh, I really didn't take in that full experience of being at the Olympics and get to really appreciate it. So since then, my goal has been every place we go, like, yes, take triathlon seriously, it's my job, but also enjoy it, explore, and have fun. And I've found that every year since then, I've done it better and better because it's more balanced. And so, like, for instance, one of our races is in Bermuda. One of the top triathletes in the world is also from Bermuda. So like, I'll message her and be like, where do you recommend going for like open water swim, or like where's a good place to run, and just get tips on like little local things that I can kind of include in my training, and to experience life wherever we are. And then also, like, I enjoy getting food from all the different places, mainly after the race.
Yeah. The places that you train, I mean, they must be pretty unpopulated, right? Like when you're doing a bike ride or even a run. I mean, you're probably seeing these places kind of to yourself, I would assume, besides, people you're training with. But I think that's a pretty unique way of seeing a place.
Yeah, I really like it because I feel like we might not always see like the typical tourist attractions. Like it kills me that we've flown in and out of the Barcelona airport like so many times and I've yet to go into the city of Barcelona. But like but I like getting to be able to explore like the countrysides or like get out of the cities and what's around the cities, or even when we were in London, like passing by the big attractions in London or like the palace and things like that. But on my bike, it's almost like kind of like, oh, like hey, like that's there, and like I really like kind of seeing it without the crowds. And also sometimes we manipulate our training to be like super early in the morning, especially on the bike, just because we don't want to be on crowded roads. So it's also a nicer way to see a quieter version of like these cities. And so like, for instance, when we were in Lausanne, Switzerland, we would go and do like the bike course early in the morning, but also you're seeing like the whole area at a different pace, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's such a unique way to see different places. And besides being remote when you're doing your training, but being up early is, I mean, you probably really do just get to enjoy it, the place by yourself, it feels like, probably a lot of the times. So, are there any places that you train that you just really love and going back to?
Yeah, I mean, I love Banyoles. I love Banyoles, Spain. That's like it's just this quiet town.
Can you spell that for me?
Banyoles,
Okay.
and it's just is I like the Spanish lifestyle. They're just like such a slower pace. I mean, especially again with the bike, like it's nice to have people who are patient and bike friendly, and like the roads are quiet, and it's a beautiful small lake, has like a trail around it, and it's one of my favorite spots. I also really enjoy the Australian lifestyle, but for different reasons, not not necessarily for um, the biking aspect, but I like the ocean. I like the Australian oceans and just seeing that beauty. We really enjoy training in Santa Cruz.
Yeah, it's not a bad place to live.
No, no, that's where Tommy, my husband, was born and raised, and it's a pretty amazing place as well. So it's nice that we can find awesome places to train, whether we're home in the States or abroad. It's pretty good.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. And then, so I know that obviously, staying healthy and fit is a big part of your life. Do you have any suggestions for us non-athletes on how to stay fit while traveling?
Yeah, I would recommend, I mean, I think using activity to explore the area is an awesome way. Also, I have a biased opinion on it, but like whether it's walking tours or renting a bike or seeing not just the parts that are going to be written up in all the like the magazines or travel magazines, but also the lesser known areas and the more mellow areas I found to be like really beautiful and just as amazing. Plus it's kind of like you get to see it a little bit more on your own. I think like for eating wise, especially if you're staying for a longer extended time, like for sure, like have fun trying out the different cuisine of the area, but also if you're there for a while, maybe bring like especially for us, like when I go to races, I really need to make sure that I'm not eating out and like in an indulgent type of eating out for all of my
Hmm.
meals.
Right.
It adds up, not just in like feeling a bit heavy before the race, but also like monetary wise. It's just the extra cost. So like figuring out, like, I mean, normally we'll have breakfast provided for us at the hotels, but we'll do lunch by just like using those little like hotel fridges and having a like self setup with that, and then like figuring out where we want to go for dinner. It's a little different for us just because racing, we're trying to conserve so much energy as well. So in doing that, we lack a little bit of like going out and enjoying like the nightlife, but we'll use like Uber Eats or like different delivery apps. But you can really, like, with Google and everything, it's so easy to find healthy options and really like
Right.
do that research maybe before you even go on your trip or on the plane ride or whatever. But like, to know once you get there, like, some people enjoy the spontaneous aspect. I'm not. I like to plan. So,
Okay.
so
So do I.
yeah. So I like having, like, going through and finding like, yeah, like places that might be a little different than what I'm used to, but also like that fit like the amount of money I want to spend, the type of food I want to eat, and all of that.
So you were supposed to compete in the Olympics this summer in Tokyo, and obviously that's been postponed because of COVID. And so I was thinking about, you as an athlete and how important, I'm sure, mindset and mental strength is. And so how are you staying positive about sort of the turn of events, and what has this experience taught you about resilience?
I think it's definitely been a challenging time, and I think my emotions and acceptance of everything has kind of fluctuated and had its higher and lower points. I've been trying to, like, I keep a list every night before I go to bed. I write 10 things I'm grateful for within the day. And I really think that's helped me to keep a positive mindset, or like at least overall outlook, even if like maybe the day kind of felt like a darker day than others. And then also really having communication with my support network, whether that's my sports psychologist, Tommy, or my coach or family, whatever. But really talking to them and manipulating training a bit to fit whatever like my state of mind or emotions are. So it's not like changing everything, but like it's a lot longer of a time between racing. Like, I've never trained for this long of an extension. So if I'm getting drained and it's physical and emotional like at the same time, then we might adapt training just for that. But I think having like the idea that, like, continue being grateful, going back to just enjoying the process and enjoying training, and trying to walk like the path of least resistance with that. So even though in this time where we're not really going anywhere, but using it to explore, like, I grew up in Hampstead, Maryland, but I've been exploring on my bike roads that I've never ridden before, and that's been really fun. Or like even yesterday, looking up different trails to run in, and just kind of trying to find ways to build adventure and fun, even though we're not actually going anywhere, and just trying to have patience and be adaptable. And so it's all like, it's definitely, we're used to being uncomfortable, we're used to kind of needing to adapt for like different race situations, different training, but it's been used in a different way for this year.
Right. Yeah, this is a whole
Yeah.
other level of uncomfortable and
Right.
needing to adapt. And I do like your approach to, I mean, trying to just explore in your own backyard. And no one's explored everything in their, neighborhood. So there's something that you can find somewhere. So it's kind of like what you're saying. I was just thinking about things differently, being resourceful and adapting. And, sometimes that means looking closer to home for adventures, and then, you would normally think of doing. I did see that you started doing Instagram lives. And so yesterday was the first time I was able to pop on one, because I'd seen them come up on my phone, and I was like, okay, I'm going to pop on this. And so you had you were doing a book sort of like this is what you're reading, which I thought was awesome because I'm a huge book nerd. And then you were doing a workout. So have you been doing like the mini workouts on your lives?
Yep. We've been doing them basically since like all this COVID stuff started. So the end of March, I I kind of started doing them live. The planks and pajamas, that's what we call it, is
I
10 minutes
love it.
before. And basically, I always keep like a little checklist of different habits I want to do every single day. And I've done this for the past few years. And every year it's very similar. And so 10 minutes of core always goes on it. And when coronavirus started, I felt like a lot of people felt like their routines and everything was just like completely chaotic and that there was no more structure anymore. And what I wanted to do with planks and pajamas was just have something that people could feel like they had a routine with and that they could keep doing even if the pools were closed, even if like they weren't able to do their typical training sessions, but realizing that habits can be small and they can be manageable and they can still have big impacts. So and I was doing it with my older sister, and so then I was like, well, maybe other people would want to join. So I don't actually know like how many people are doing it with us, or but it's always been enough that it keeps me going because it's it's been really cool to I feel held accountable by the community, but also I feel like more people like having the structure. And I say planks and pajamas because I want anybody of any skill set or whatever they're doing, like, to be way less. I don't want it to be like scary to do planks and pajamas because I'm like in my sports bra, like in my workout clothes. Like the idea of planks and pajamas is that you can be in your pajamas or
Right.
jeans or whatever you want and like be and not need any equipment. And for 10 minutes, you can take that time for yourself. And well, it's 11 minutes technically of structure. And then I try to
Right.
keep it under 15 minutes of like talking, but it's fun. And we always share a little bit of our day. And yeah, it's been pretty cool to keep doing.
Yeah, I love it. I just discovered it. Sounds like you've been doing it for a while, but I'm gonna become a planks and pajamas person because it is super easy and it's nice
Yeah.
to have that accountability. It's like, okay, yeah, I can do it. So I was glad I found that. And so um, I know you're on Instagram, but are there other places that people can find out more about you?
I would say like Instagram and Facebook. So Instagram is Zafiras 6, KZAFERES, and the number 6. Or also I have a Facebook athlete page, so it's Katie Zafiras, the same as how I just spelt it, triathlete. And both of those actually have, when we do planks and pajamas, it's on both Facebook and Instagram for those who have one or the
Oh,
other.
perfect. Okay.
Um, and yeah, we do it every night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, but all of the videos are uploaded if you it's not time. Like we had some guy yesterday who was like, hello from Spain, and I was like, it's like 1 a.m, you should be asleep. Like,
Well, maybe he
like,
had a
go
really long
to bed.
siesta and then he
Well,
had
yeah,
extra energy. I don't know.
I was like, well, you are Spanish, so it does make sense you're up late, but
Yeah, that's pretty dedicated. This wasn't in my list, but I'm wondering, are there any other exercises that, like, say you can't get out, for a bike ride or a swim, that you're like, oh, but I can do this, like planking, that you can do kind of anywhere, like if you're traveling.
well, like a lot of my exercises, so even with planks and pajamas, it maybe the name is a little bit misleading because it is like body weight exercises. We won't do 10 minutes just all of planks, but you'll kind of do a variation of exercises. But I feel like there's quite a few different strength exercises where you can do with body weight, or like one of my favorites is a stability ball to use. I used to travel with a TRX, and
Oh,
like
okay.
to be able to do like that different type of exercise. I haven't for a little bit. I always travel with swim bands, so like elastic bungee bands. And so like when we weren't able to get in the pools because of the gyms being shut down, we were doing just different like swim why can't I think of the word, but bungee exercises type thing. And then like I honestly go on to like Google or YouTube and just like write in like 20 minutes of core.
That's where I do most of my workouts.
Yeah, you can find like anything you're looking for. And then I also like, for us with our bikes, we have like travel trainers that we can travel with that are like pretty well lightweight for all considering, and we can situate our bikes on that so we can ride. Like today we rode indoors just because we kind of were pressed for time a little bit. But that's something we'll do if we're traveling for races, and like when we're in places like Yokohama, Japan, which you can actually ride on the roads like relatively like okay, but the stoplights are like insane. Like a 90-minute ride will take you double the time just because you'll be sitting at stoplights for half the time. So
Oh, wow.
so we'll just ride inside for like if we're in places like that or that are just a bit more busy, which is nice to have that option.
I think it was like some boutique hotel chain, but they started including in every room a TRX setup, which I thought was pretty nice. I have to find it. I'll have to look up which hotel chain it was, but I thought that's a great idea. I think a lot of people would use it.
Yeah. And the cool thing about a lot of the places we go in Europe, or well, maybe not a lot of them, but we've been to quite a few like sports hotels. So like the place we stay in Mallorca, it has a 25-meter pool that's part of the facility with lanes. It has another like more recreational pool. And then they also have um like a spa that has massage and sports massage. And then like under the
Oh,
hotel
nice.
is like a whole storage area for the bikes where you get a key, you lock your bike up. There's like a bike cleaning station, and there's like a bike shop and bike like maintenance for down there. And like sports resorts are a lot more common, I would say, in Europe, but it's an awesome setup, and it's a great way like to go to a place, and especially Mallorca, because Mallorca, a lot of people know it for like the beaches and just that aspect of it, but also they have a huge like cycling community where when you go during the off season, like it's so many bikes. It's more bikes than it is like cars on the road.
Wow.
And so it's pretty awesome just to see people like really enjoying the island that way.
Nice. Yeah, and I actually don't think I really knew about sports hotels, so that's something I have to look into. Yeah, because it sounds like it makes it super easy.
Yeah, that would be also my way to stay fit,
Yeah.
is stay at one of those resorts.
So, what is your most meaningful travel experience?
I think I would have to say meeting my husband. I would be probably any other answer would not be great. But yeah, I
He
met
might
my
not
husband.
listen, to this show.
He's just on that bed
Oh,
above me.
it's okay. Shoot.
But we met in Tijuvaras, Hungary, actually. So
Wow.
I just kind of got lucky that he was actually from the US.
Oh my
But
goodness, that's random.
yeah. So there was a race there, and it was funny because he doesn't drink, and I'm not really a drinker as well, and we like both decided to go to this after party, and because of us being kind of like flies on the wall more, we just sat and talked the whole time. So
Oh, perfect. You guys
yeah.
like found each other.
Yep. Yep, exactly. So that was probably my most meaning travel experience.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty meaningful.
Yeah.
Even if he's not sitting there.
Yeah. Still say it. Still say it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. Like, I got a lot about the Olympian lifestyle
Yeah.
and how to stay fit when you're in all these different amazing places. Good luck in your continued training, and thanks for chatting with me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Explorer in You podcast. Now, here's what I want you to do next. Take a screenshot of the episode you're listening to right now and share it on your Instagram stories. And when you do, make sure to tag me at Explorer in You. Sharing on stories will help more people find this podcast and feel inspired to travel. I'll add it to my stories and give you a shout out too. And if you really enjoyed this episode, head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.